Thank you for staying with us. Police officers descended on protesters in Kasarani this past week in demonstrations that left one person, a young man, dead. The protesters were demonstrating over the poor state of the Kasarani Mwiki Road. Police have confirmed the death, even as a family and residents pointed an accusing finger at law enforcement for using unnecessary and excessive force. KTN's Brian Obuya revisits the events for us.
The Kasarani Mwiki Road's condition has been the cause of many protests since the days of the defunct City Council administration. In April last year, there was a similar protest over the same road in this same area. But this is by far the longest a matatu strike has lasted in memorable history. And those spearheading the revolution for change say it will last as long as the government wants it to.
Tutaendelea mpaka siku ile serikali itakubali kutengeneza barabara. Juu ukiangalia kama 1 week you are spending about 40,000 ukitengeneza gari. Mambo ni spring kuvujika, so crossover kuvujika. Hiyo mayo walitumwagia hapo inatoboa miguu. So in 1 week unapata umetumia more than 40,000.
MP wetu alituambia hakuchaguliwa na watu wa Mweki na Kasarani. Alichaguliwa na watu wa Ruai. Tunataka tushindwe. Ruai kwani yeye alikuwa anasimama MCA ama alikuwa anasimama nini?
Bado sidhani barabara za usago zinakaa namna hii. Hii ni wazi, more than ya usago, ni more wazi. Tumekasirika zaidi. Kwa hivyo ile kitu tunataka Uhuru ajue, watu wake walete watu watengeneze, na kama inawezekana hatutaki Mwafrika. Tulete hata wa China hapa watengeneze barabara. At least tunalipa wa Afrika anakuja pale anaziba mashimo siku 2-3. Siku haina tena ndio hiyo. Mvua ikinyesha kidogo barabara inarudi mchanga tu.
Matatu operators plying the Kasarani Mwiki route downed their tools on Monday, protesting the dilapidated roads that serve hundreds of thousands of residents living in Kasarani constituency. The poor state of the road has disadvantaged motorists and pedestrians experiencing the never-ending traffic jams even during off-peak hours. And when the protests occur, people are injured. People like Okwayo. He was shot. We are meeting him at a local hospital where he's come for a checkup.
Wakaanza kutupatia gas. In the process mimi nikakimbia kuelekea hapo kwa uwanja wa maji mazuri, ndio hiyo live bullet ilinipata, ikagwara hapa kwa tumbo. Kwa bahati mbaya ikapata mkono ikaingia na ikatokea the other side.
And then there was murder. In this clip, the body of a young man is being taken to a police station. 2 officers accused of murdering him in cold blood. The family of Stephen Machirusi is mourning his extrajudicial killing during the 3rd day of the protests, Wednesday.
Ni kijana innocent, anaga ubaya na mtu. Ni kijana anakuanga amenyamaza, anaga maneno na mtu. Sasa hapo hiyo kitu iniuma sana. Kwa sababu yeye hana ubaya na mtu, aliyekuwa anaenda shughuli zake. Na hiyo sio kitu nilikuwa natarajia mimi.
Steve was a 20-year boy who cleared Form 4 last year, came to Nairobi to create a future. Lillian is his sister.
Nikafungua kifua yake nikapata amepigwa risasi katikati ya kifua. Alipigwa katikati ya kifua ikatokea pande hii. Lakini haikutoka kwa sababu damu haikumwagika hata.
Every time there's a protest, authorities have moved in to repair the road. But after a few months, the road would go back to the previous state. The last 4 days of protests have seen the worst of the area's fear, insecurity, and daylight robberies by people taking advantage of the course. With murders and brutality reported, no one is ready to take responsibility for the madness dispensed in Kasarani the last 4 days. It remains a case of bad roads, gangs, murder, and denial. Brian Obuya, KTN News.
That is what happened in Kasarani. It was 4 days of protests. Finally, there was the meeting between stakeholders, the political leaders, Kenya Urban Rural Roads Authority, KURA, and there was a decision to repair that road with immediate effect. A lot of Kenyans asking, does it take for somebody to die for service to be delivered? Jerotich, it's a very unfortunate turn of events. Talk to us about it.
Well, while the BBI road shows and popularization is happening, there's spontaneous combustion in many parts of this country. And as somebody was saying, it's very interesting to see what happened in Kasarani. There was no civil society. There was no the usual, we're going to have a maandamano, let's meet at this time. It was spontaneous. It was organic. It was a community that said enough is enough. And by the way, when was the last time you saw President Uhuru Kenyatta stop there on his way on his way home or on his way elsewhere? When was the last time you saw him stop in Ruiru? When was the last time you saw him stop in Githurai? You know, people are angry. This is his backyard. It's a backyard we are talking about.
Right.
And people are furious. They have had enough. But let us not forget that that northern part of the city has suffered from a continuous reign of extrajudicial killing. It is normal there that police fire indiscriminately and they fire live bullets. So my heart goes out to the family. Again, yet another senseless death at the hands of police who are unable to manage demonstrations in such a manner. But let's go to Kura. When was the last time Kura was audited? Do you know the troubles? Do you know the reports all over the country about Kura and Kura's failure to deliver services? And I wonder how they were so able in the middle of crisis to suddenly say, we have, what was it, 300 million available. Where was the procedure, the contracting procedure, etc.? So you mean that money was always there and somebody had to die for people to take action? So for me, what I see is a formation in different parts of the country of Kenyans who have said enough is enough. And the political class is too busy securing succession for 2022 to understand that there could be a wave coming from under and behind that could overrun and sweep this nation. When was the last time you saw tear gas in Lavington? Or you see tear gas in Runda? You see, the fodder for police bullets always comes from the most lumpen of the proletariats. And this is something that will result in an uprising that even President Uhuru Kenyatta himself was not aware, would not even believe would have been able to come his way. So for me, I just see it as a continuous decay of the country. Our economy is at a standstill. There is no money. People cannot survive. When somebody says he has to spend about 40,000 shillings a week to repair his matatu because of the roads, what are you saying? When health is destroyed, education is there but non-functioning. You know, we have a crisis. Do we believe the abracadabra mathematics coming out of Treasury telling us that this is the way forward? We are borrowing money. Money is being siphoned and stolen into the pockets of crony capitalists and politically connected cartels. This is the result. This is what you're starting to see on the ground. When enough is enough, when every Kenyan's back is up against that wall, the uprising will begin. And even I can say, oh, you know, I'm an active citizen, etc., etc. Do you know that if young people overran my neighborhood today, I would also be stoned and killed and looted? Because they would say, we are all part and parcel of this class that has sat there and watched them. Last year, Caroline Mwatha was killed. They said it was a botched abortion, sijui what, deep cuts in her neck, her thigh, because she was a very key witness in extrajudicial killings. All over Kinakayole, all those places, you have Hesis running around, shooting, shooting, shooting. Then I hear people saying, oh, but that place is full of thugs, so it's a narrative. And the people in those areas are criminals and are deserving of this excessive use of force. People should be allowed, just like Nabongo in Mumias, just like they should have been allowed to gather peacefully and manifest and say what they need to say. That should have been allowed to happen in Kasarani. But the fact that we got there in the first instance speaks to the total collapse of Kenya. So I urge the BBI dancers and singers running around, roaming around from region to region to region, to understand that kwa ground, vitu ni different.
All right. Dismas, she raises very important issues, speaks about a disconnect, what's happening on the ground and the political class. They don't really know what's happening, because this was a very serious protest for 3-4 days consecutively. People Kasarani said enough is enough. They didn't care about tear gas and bullets even, until something was done. And are we getting to that point where a group of Kenyans are getting, you know, fed up and saying enough is enough? And how dangerous is that, you know, for the political class to keep ignoring that?
Well, we have to go to the US first. And you remember when Bill Clinton was campaigning, he had the slogan and he said it's about economics, stupid. It meant what really voters are interested in is economics. the issue about the economy, whether or not you are able to afford a meal today. And you remember we've said here times above number for the last 3 years that Kenya's economy has been bleeding. And many panelists, some of them are present here, said that the Kenyan economy was doing very well. Stellar, that you can only compare it to South Korea, Japan, and China. They were doing very well. Till the numbers started going south. And then Moses Kuria, who is now not in good books anymore, said that the National Assembly and the Jubilee have been misleading us. Even at that stage, nobody believed that the economy was bleeding. It's only Musalia Mudavadi used to remind Kenyans that the economy is bleeding. Still, people did not believe him. Now, what you saw happening in Kasarani, and Jero teachers indicated that you did not see activists mobilizing people coming up with those placards done in black and white or MPIG and everything else, is the people are frustrated. Now, for a rational human being to say that if you want, you can kill me, it means they have given up. Now, that takes us back to Tunisia. You remember a young man who was selling vegetables, and the local kanjo there started beating him up, and the fella set himself on fire, and it led to a revolution. That's the danger we have in Kenya. If the political class are going to spend all their time as BBI dancers or supporters, not alive to what is happening on the ground, then they may face music at some stage. Like, for instance, all those guys who were gathered at Bukungu Stadium, you saw the VIPs coming in top of the range, those Toyotas, the SUVs, others coming in choppers. Then I truly reminded everybody in the audience that all these guys who are speaking to you have already bought them lunch. And you remember when it started raining, they were scampering around looking for umbrellas. But the fellas who were in that audience were yawning. They went home on empty stomachs. They were very, very disappointed. And if the president doesn't stamp his authority on the issues of economic management, we're going to be in trouble. And you remember early on in the conversation, we said that the speech from Mombasa was very solid because he addressed the tea issue and coffee. But fundamentally, he did not touch on the national debt. Because right now, out of the money we collect as our revenues, our taxes, a lion's share goes to servicing our debt. And if you speak to basic economics, even my nieces and nephews tell me that why can't we restructure our national debt so that why can't we even sell it to Africa Development Bank or IMF, yes, those institutions, so that we have enough resources. There's a story which was a report released by IMF that out of those 1,000 projects that are supposed to be ongoing, 50% of them are stalled. Maybe the Miki Road is one of them. And Jerotichi has asked, so where did the money come from? Obviously, there's nothing is going to happen. When they tell us that there's money, it's as if they're giving us a painkiller. They just want us to make people happy for a few days, and then it's going to be business as usual. All right. We cannot be treating malaria using a painkiller. It will not work.
Mark Bichachi, how big is the disconnect between political leadership in this country and what's happening on the ground? We did see another protest in Katani over a road as well. I mean, it's getting to that point, isn't it?
First, let's put some things in order. Number one, there have been a number of protests about roads. There was one last year in Naivasha. We talked about the one in Katani and the one here in Kasarani. First, let's tell our government that protests are not to be quashed. The easiest way to deal with the protest is to listen to the people from the get-go. That's the easiest way, and it's the best way. Again, it is not right that anyone should lose their lives so that a road can be built. But that said, let us put the perspective and the lenses correct. One of the things about the roads that I've seen that are in protest, they are first of all not national government roads. The disconnect in who is missing the point is between the governor and the MPs of that particular area. That road in Mwiki is a road that Kidero put 500 million shillings in quotes to fix the road. The road was window dressed. It was never dealt with. So in as much as we would very easily try to put the blame at the doorstep.
Well, protests are against any form of government.
Yeah, but
county or national.
That's what, you see, you must, to solve a problem like this.
So that's a Kura road.
Yes, it is a Kura road.
Yes.
But to solve a problem, you must land the baby where the problem actually lies. Okay? If the county government of Nairobi put down 500 million shillings on that road, and less than 3 years later, the road is gone, then where should the question start? Where did our 500 million go in the first place? That is where we should start. If we want to solve problems in Kenya, we can't generalize things. We've got to specifically say that the road, the contractor that built it for 500 million shillings and left potholes instead of a road, that contractor today should be talking to us from prison bars. That's number one. Because that's the problem. Because what is going to save us tomorrow from this 300 million going down the same route? We need to be serious as a people and realize that if we are not going to follow through on what we actually want as a people, we're going to miss it. Look at the people of Sudan. The people of Sudan were nearly shortchanged when the army tried to change one dictator for another and tried to bring back the interests of the army under a civilian revolt. Now, if we keep going after general platitudes and not trying to deal with the problem specifically, we will miss it. So there are two things that our nation needs to be careful about. Number one, the projects when they're being done, we must first, as a people, have that oversight, and I like what the Office of the Auditor General has been trying to push, and I hope it's adopted. It's called a social audit. It is not enough to say money was allocated and money was spent. The question of whether it met what was expected has to be answered, because how many roads are built without pavements? How many roads today are built without a drainage? For as long as that is the case, it is not enough to allocate money. And therefore, I would like to ask my fellow citizens, just as much as we want to demonstrate, can we also demonstrate when they build roads for us without walkways? It is humanly illogical. I was in Pangani yesterday, Ben. I'm telling you, between the garbage and the humanity and the cars, where is the human rights there? That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on making sure the entire process of what the government is supposed to procure for us is done in full. And if the MP is as rude as it's claimed she is, then the people of Miki and Ruai in that area need to seriously consider what leadership means for them. And part of their demonstration should be also, and this is something I'm hoping will catch on worldwide, that we need to say and demonstrate for leaders who've shown either incompetence or criminality to be kicked out of office. The people of Embakasi East today should demand that someone who can shoot someone with such laxity, with such reckless abandon, tomorrow cannot be called Mheshimiwa. They should have resigned on principle already. This idea that we must wait for him to exhaust 16 levels of appeal before we call Babu Owino not a Mheshimiwa should stop.
So Kenyans, so there are a lot of levels, a lot of thresholds for Kenyans
we need
to be
to
mad,
go the whole hog.
angry about, you say. All right, so Kipchumba, he talks about anger being directed at specific and whatever they're supposed to be pointed at. The MP, somebody in that clip, in that story, said the MP for Kasarani said that she was not elected by the people of Kasarani. I mean, what should be happening there? The MP there is Mercy Gakuya of Jubilee Party. What should be happening in terms of the lawmakers especially?
Ben, let us put three things into perspective. The first one, if you have been to Mwiki and those sides of Kasarani, you will think you are somewhere 100 or 200 kilometers away from Nairobi, because the amount of turmoil in that road is enough for that kind of anger. Two, it is sad that a few months ago, I think 3 months ago, there was a Kileweke team launching a road there. The question we should be asking ourselves, what was Akina Ngunjiri launching in that road? What happened to because there was a grader and all that. But the main point is this: when people demonstrate about bad leadership, the answer is not in shooting and killing them. That is what we must tell our government, and it should hear that. What people demonstrate against this, just people want accountability for their money. Kura has a budget. What are they doing about this road? This is a major road in that part of the world. You cannot just allow it to have a pothole which is the size of a swimming pool. What is it? Is it a road or a swimming pool? So we need to ask ourselves. The other thing is this, the issue of human rights, extrajudicial killings. With the police force, I thought when we changed their uniform from the color it was to blue, we were changing the attitude. It was not just a color change in uniforms.
So as a lawyer, what should happen? Where is justice going to come for that young man? And another young man was killed the same day or the day before in Majengo.
The thing will be processed through IPOA, and from there the other inquest and what have you will be followed. But it is sad, and it is an issue that the president should take measures against, and Matiang'i and the Inspector General, because we cannot have a police shooting people who have legitimate issues just because we don't want them to seem to be expressing an issue. Because when you go there, Ben, the road is bad, and it has been so for like 3 years. Nothing has been happening. So these people, they have been patient for 3 years. Enough is enough. And we have Kura. We should hold Kura accountable to tell us what they have been doing, and the county government of Nairobi. We've seen Sonko trying to do some roads. We have to give it to him. We have seen Sonko in collaboration with that regeneration team working around some roads, but that is not enough. If people demonstrate about roads, at least listen to them, as Bichachi was saying. The other thing is this: what matters for Kenyans is not that their politicians are peaceful. What matters for Kenyans is that their day-to-day business is aching something that they can take home for their kids and for the survival for their own survival. So I think at times when we have Kenyans organizing and demonstrating, we should first of all ask ourselves, is it the right direction they are going? Yes, it is, because it is the direction. The Constitution has given those Kenyans that right to demonstrate. What the police should do is to just make sure that looting doesn't happen in the process of demonstration. Right. The other thing also, which I was asking myself, Kenyans also should learn, when you demonstrate, it is not enough to just move up and down. Can you have a memoranda directed somewhere? Because when you demonstrate in that manner, we don't know whether it's an organized vigilante, we don't know whether it is Mungiki reappearing, we don't know what is happening. Right. And we might also not know if it is politics against the MP.
All right.
So we need to know by having a memoranda and take it to the next place.
And one of the key things, Ben, that he's just mentioned that cannot be understated is the fact that we need, as a people in this country, to begin to own the processes of the development of our country. The fact is, and I hope Ekuru Yatani is listening, budgets need to be broken down to city blocks, down to streets, so that people know that, listen, the Ministry of Environment is supposed to plant 2 trees here. Where are our 2 trees? Because unless we begin to get Kenyans involved in the development of the country, down to the clinics that are supposed to be there and how many staff, that's how you manage a country, and that's how you change people. The BBI report, if it is going to be worth any salt, it needs to get down to that level where the average Kenyan can say, this is what I want, and the person who's let me down is this MP, is this commissioner, is this. That is how
accountability. Hold that thought, Wakili. We're coming back to that. So we're not going anywhere. Let's take we have to go for a break now. Hold that thought. When we come back, tell us what you think about these things. We talked about the protests in Kasarani, killing of that young man. The road now will be constructed. We talked about the BBI, as well as President Kenyatta restructuring his government. Have the final say on what we're discussing here on the show this morning. When we come back.